today I'm going to go through just the basics of modeling again, just to remind you of what the best procedure is for modeling. So what I've got here is actually going to look quite complex just because I've been playing around with something called configurations. So I want to show you some configurations and how they might help you. They might help you with this design, because I think this design is really pretty basic. I mean, it's a box with maybe some divisions. So there's not much you can do with the outside of the shape grammatically. I mean, you can make it slide in and out, or you can have it make it a lid, but it's essentially some sort of rectangular box. Unless you guys have got some weird and wonderful ideas that I don't know about yet. So I think a lot of what you're going to sort of have to focus on is the styling. Is this right, or am I getting this wrong? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Huh?
So like it kind of, but I feel like quite a few of us are like really kind of exploring all of the possibilities of what like a cabinet holder could be.
Okay, okay, okay. Okay, I'm not going to interfere, but I think the thing I mean, this provides a huge opportunity for just styling. I mean, it's because it's really, it's really a box, and boxes are quite dull ultimately, but there's a lot you can do in terms of styling. So I wonder if I should just start this again. Let me just see. No, okay, no, I don't think so. Okay, so what I've got here, I'm going to roll this back. You can see on my left-hand side in my feature tree that I've got a lot of features in here. And these features have to do with different configurations. So I've got the main configuration here, which is really just 3 features. It's a boss and 2 fillets. So usually, if I'm doing lots of configurations, what I like to do is to just rename some of these features. So what's it doing there? So if you click on the feature that you're looking at, and you click again and pull away slightly, you can rename that. So I'm going to call this major, what would this be? First config. Just because I've got lots of major fillets, so I'm going to do the same with this second one. And the reason I'm going to go through configurations is because you can start with the basic shape, and then you can just fill in just different features, and then you can quickly see which one you like. And you can present them as well. So, right, so those are my 2 fillets. So really it's just 3 features. You can ignore what's going on in between. Those have been, God, my brain's not working at the moment. Those have been suppressed. There we go, suppressed. So those have been suppressed. So if I just roll this back, I'm sure, I don't know, I can't remember if we've been through the feature tree before much, but I'm sure you do know by now that you can get this little finger hand thing, and you can roll back all the way to wherever you want to be. So let's have a quick look at this sketch. And this is just reminding you of what's useful and what's good. Whenever you're doing a sketch, it really is a good idea, if it's symmetrical, to put it symmetrically around the origin point. So that's what I've done. I've got like I started off with a square, right? So I went like this. I put my dimensions in. I said that I wanted that for construction. And then I've used that as the basis to then create these slight curves that I've got on here. So that's the basic idea. And then I've just shifted the whole lot over to that point. Okay, so I'm not going to do that again. This is just reminding you of what's going to make things smooth for you. So in here, at the moment, I've actually swapped out one line for another, because I wanted the sort of the top line to be flat and not curved as in the bottom, to indicate that it's the top. But at any time, you can actually swap one line out for another. So you can right click here, and you should be able to go to can't find it, just go to the top here and go replace entity. And then it'll say replace this entity. You can choose one entity with another one, and you can say that one there, right? Okay, and you can see it's actually swapped the two. One's become a construction line, the other one's become solid. And this is not fully defined somehow. I'm not sure why. It might be because I haven't connected that. Right, there we go. So I've connected them. So now it's fully defined. It looks like it. So I've got a radius in there. I've got these two radii. Something went amiss there, but I've got those two radii. So it's gone all black. Okay, so that's the basic idea. So let's just go back to this thing here. A reminder that the sequence of modeling is best done as a simple shape without fillets, then the taper. So you can either put the taper in the modeling. So I've got it in here. Let's take that out. And if you take it out, you can actually specify that the taper is in or out in the configurations. But we'll get to that. I'll explain how these configurations work in a moment. So I'm going to take it out. You'll see if I now drag this line to the bottom, it might not. Oh no, it will. It will actually allow me to put the two fillets in. But I'm going to roll it back again like this. And the reason I'm rolling it back is because if I leave this line at the bottom and I now want to put a taper in, because I've taken the taper out, it's going to put the taper in after the two fillets. And that's bad. We don't want to do that, because then that's going to make this taper, this fillet taper upwards from one radius to another, which is hard to tool, or it's more difficult to tool, and you're sort of making things more difficult. So I'm gonna just pull this up to there. That's good enough. So that means wherever this line is, that's where I'm gonna start with whatever feature exists, and I'm going to start with that. I'm not going to include the other two. So you can shift the sequence around of these features. So I'm going to select that bottom face, say draft. So it's choosing that as the neutral plane. I want 1 degree, and then I just choose the 4 faces that I want to taper. Okay, and you can see it's actually tapered it outwards because I chose, let me just make sure. I think I chose the wrong, I might have chosen the wrong face. Let's go to this draft. No, I chose the right face, but I've put the taper in the wrong way. So these are things you have to watch out for. If it's in the wrong way, just go and swap the direction. Okay, so if I go to one of these views, where are my views? There we go. You can see, I can see visually that this is now tapering the right way. And then once that's done, I just drag this little line past the 2 features that I want included, and it'll put them back in. Okay, and then I'm going to drag this all the way to the shell, and it'll shell it. So just to try and keep that in mind when you are modeling, try and put your fillets in last, especially, and then put them in as your larger fillets first and then your minor fillets in second. Okay, so I'm going to save this right now. Are we all good up to now? Any questions about this? All good, huh? All right, so I could, like, for instance, if I wanted to go back to this feature here and I wanted to put the taper in over here and just say 1 degree, we're going to get a conflict now. No, it looks like we aren't. But if I've done that, then I should actually just suppress this. So any one of these features can be suppressed at any time. Just going to suppress this one feature because there's a conflict. And then you can see what's going on. So, you can see what's happening. You can see whether it makes sense to you. Okay, so let's hop over to configurations because I think this is going to help you, but I might be wrong. So I've got in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 configurations already. So I've got my base design. This normally gets named as default. So when you start, I'm just going to click on this again and pull away. There we go. It normally has that name. Okay. So if you want to rename that, you just click in it and then call it base and rename it. Right, so I'm going to go to the second one in a moment. Let me first tell you how to get a new configuration in here. You right click on this the top line and you say add configuration. And then you give your configuration a name. So I'm going to call this config 2. You can describe it, so you can say whatever it is, test or wavy, wavy design, whatever it is that makes sense to you to remind you of what it is that you did. And there you see it'll go straight to that configuration. So you can see that this configuration is exactly the same as the base configuration because I've done nothing to it. If I double click on the configuration and go back to the features, if I now had to, let's just suppress one of these. Okay, so I've suppressed the shell. So watch what happens now. If I click on the base has the shell unsuppressed and the config 2 has it suppressed. If I click on it, you'll see it instantly puts that feature back in. So whatever configuration you have, it'll follow with whatever you've put into this set of things. The other thing you can do with this is, let's go back to this config 2. I can now click on any one of these features and radius 8. And when I get this dialog box, either inside here, you'll see there's 3 little configuration buttons. Either in there or there's a button here on the left-hand side. If this modify button doesn't appear, you click on this and you say this configuration, and you'll see it'll click to this configuration. Or you can specify that it applies to a number of configurations. So I'm going to say for this configuration, I want that radius to be 2.5 instead. So I'm using the same dimensions, the same sketch, the same features, everything's the same. I'm just changing what they do. So let's do that. Let's make this quite a doughy featured thing. So for this configuration, I want that to be 9. So this is exactly the same design. I've changed absolutely nothing, but I can get a feeling of which of these two designs I prefer. That one or this one. So it's that one or this one. So hopefully that gives you at least a basic idea of why configurations would be useful and nice to know about. Later on, you can actually use the configurations inside your assemblies, and you can change, you can go change the whole, like put one base with another top just to see what happens if you want to. Is this making sense so far? I'm going to assume that. Okay, so let's have a look at what other things we can do here. So I'm going to go to this triangular one. It's got an angry red mark because I've got something in here which it doesn't like. So I think it's just going to suppress some of these and see what happens. I didn't have time to go and polish this model completely, so that's probably why. So I'm borrowing, at the moment, I'm borrowing the fillets, as you can see, in the shell from the primary thing. I'm going to go back to the beginning, and I want to show you what I've done here. So just ignore all of these others. Assume that you just started with this boss. Okay, so it's a very basic shape. And then what you can do is you can use, what I like to do is, in this case, I've used a sketch here. So I've created a sketch. Let's go into the sketch. that's the sketch. It's just a series of triangles, which I've dimensioned and I've given a height, and I've given a spacing, and I've actually spaced this one off of the left-hand side so that visually the space between that gap and that gap are pleasing. You know, if that was 0, if that was, or let's say 0.1, then that space becomes much wider and that becomes much smaller. So I want that to be about 3.5, just so that visually it looks like it's centered, even though it's not centered. So this is just a sketch that I've put onto the face. I've exited it. Maybe I should do that from the start. So let's just do that again. I'm going to place a sketch on this face. Let's put a square in here. Give it, no, let's leave it like that. Give it a few dimensions. Just get these to line up. Okay, so it's fully dimensioned. And now, I mean, you could create this feature using solids modeling, but kind of a more versatile method is to actually start using surfaces. So I've got a sketch on here. I can actually split this face by going to delete face, or split, sorry, it's split. So it's under features, under curves, you'll see split line, and I can use whatever sketch it is that I've created. And I'm going to split this face. So I've selected the sketch, which is that one. I've selected this face, this top face, and I've said split. All that's done is it's split this face into 2 separate faces. So as far as a model is concerned, this is still fully functional. Let's just go back. Okay, it doesn't like some of my features. So let's just go. That's because I'm duplicating things, I think. See what happens if I just suppress that. There we go. Okay, it's because I was duplicating things. So you can see it's still reading this as a complete model because it's actually shelled it. It wouldn't shell if this were still faces. So even though it's split this face, it hasn't split it in the sense of broken it up as faces. It's now still reading this as a solid. So so let's go. I'm going to bring this line back up to here so that we start from this point again. So what I can do now is I can delete that face and I can do some modeling inside. So you hit delete and delete face, which I think I've shown you before. You can select that face, say OK. And now this has become a surface body. You can see at the top here, it's a surface body. It's not a solid body anymore. The delete face feature has caused it to become a surface body. So from here, I can now, if I want to do some shallow modeling, it might be easier for me to do it using a plane, which I'm going to offset by, say, 0.5, because we don't have a lot of space. You don't have a lot of space in this box to play with surface modeling. So you want everything to be quite subtle. So you can see that my surface is sitting above that surface. I just want to flip that offset so that the surface is slightly below. Let's make this a little bit 0.6. Okay, and on here I can now create another sketch. I'm just going to put a line in, something like this. Give it a dimension or 2. So that I can control it later if I want to. I haven't actually tested this, but I've tested it in this other one, but let's see if this works. So from here, I can go to the surfaces feature and I can say something like Loft Surface, and I can get, you should be able to get a line if you are patient, and that line. Okay, there we go. There's one. So I have to do this one by one. Let's do that again. Don't know. Might not do this. Okay, I think here what I have to do, right, is I have to first go from that line to this line, so that now when I create this second surface, I've got edge surfaces to create the infill, the sort of last few surfaces. So here I can go from that one to that one to that one. Doesn't seem to want to do it. Okay, so I think this one you might need to do a boundary surface. Let's just see. Okay, so I think I have to go to the bottom here, just select edges. So I only select edges. There we go. There we go. There we go. Perfect. Right, so that might seem a little bit difficult, but just remember, it's lofted surfaces. If it's flat planes or fairly simple, it's a lofted surface. And if it's a little bit more complex, use the boundary surface. I don't want to make you expert in this now, but I just want to show you how much this can help you. So right, so this is not working this time. Not sure why. Sometimes. There we go. I just had to select the right surface, the right edge. So here I've got a feature. I can put a logo in there. If I don't like the height of this, I can just double click on this surface and say, well, let's make that much shallower. Let's make it 0.4. And I'm just going to specify that I want this for this configuration. Update it. And it'll just update everything for you. Let's make that 0.2. Hopefully you saw it move there. So with a simple command, I've now changed that feature, and it's available to me to use as the final model. So I'm going to go back to 0.6. And then from here, I need to stitch this whole lot together, because if I want to do any filleting, I can't do it with just surfaces. I've got to stitch everything together. So go knit surface, just select everything, right? Just make sure everything's selected, and then make sure it says create solid and then merge entities. Can't remember if the merge entities is essential, but just click it in any case. And now that you've got that available to you, you can put in your fillets. So if you want to fillet, okay, here you might have to do something like a face fillet. I'm not going to do it for now, so it's kind of like one of those things where you have to play around and see what it can do. But just to show you that, so I'm going to now suppress all of these. But before I do it, just because I've done a bit of work, create a new configuration. I'm going to say square cutouts, square facets. Oh. Right, and then I'm going to go back to this triangular one, and in here I'm going to just suppress all those features that I created for that other configuration. So I've just created a new configuration and left all the work for my old configuration. Let's just go back. Okay, so I might have got myself into trouble here. Let's see. Yeah, all right. So that one there I've got to unsuppress. Ah, yes, because I'd suppressed it before. So I'm going to have to find all the features. Unsuppress. There we go. so before I do that, okay, so what I did there is I can roll that back. Let's just roll it back just to show you what I did. Before I do that, just make sure that this is not showing. There's something wrong with the sketch. Go across to display delete. See which one of them. They all seem to be okay. If it's showing yellow, this warning could not find face of plane. Okay, so that's fairly simple. So sometimes it pays to just look at what the warning says. Could not find face of plane. So that's fairly simple to fix. You just right click on it and you say edit sketch plane and you reselect the face that you selected in the beginning. And there we go. It fixes it up. So we've got 10 minutes left. Any questions so far? Have I gone too fast or made it too complicated? No? Anyone? You all happy with that?
I'm fine.
Will this help you with what you're doing?
Definitely. I think it'll really help us with like ideation as well.
Yeah, I think.
Try a bunch of like
Yeah.
adjustments.
Yeah. Absolutely, and then you can use the same sketch, and so it is a bit tricky just to know what to do, but you don't have to use this surfacing method. I like the surfacing method because I'll show you why in a moment for these reasons, but at least it gives you an option. So if this all looks too complicated for you, forget about it, but you can actually then use solids instead. So you could do that as a sketch, and then you could extrude away what you wanted and then add the bits and pieces in afterwards. So, okay, so I've got these added in here. I think that's enough on this particular configuration. Unless you guys have questions, I think that'll do it for now. So let's go across to this faceted one, which is a much simpler one. Okay, so what I've done here is, so just to show you what's happening here, I've got duplicate fillets going on. I'm just going to, because I added these fillets in and I didn't suppress them for this configuration. So sometimes if you create new configurations, just check to see that you haven't duplicated features. So this is a very simple thing. I'm just going to go right to the top to that set of split lines, show you what it is. It's a bunch of sketches. Oh, sorry, no, that's the split line for the side. So what I did there is I created the sketch on the right plane, I think it is. Yes, I created a sketch on the right plane, and it's once again, it's just a way of getting a position to cut this thing. So I think it's 0.6. There we go, 0.6. And that's configuration specific, so I can double click on it to change it if I want to. So that's that. Let me explain this little split line, how it goes all the way around, just in case that might be confusing. So I've got this line which I've created on the right plane. It's just it's 0.6 above that line. So I'm going to exit the sketch. All right, and then you go to curves, split line, and select that line. And then you just, with projection on, you just select the faces. 1, 2, 3, 4 that you want it to project to, and it'll project it to. There we go, split them. And then when I deleted the faces, I think let's just go to that one there, unsuppress. What I did was just to go and have a look, edit feature. You can see that I selected the 8 top faces. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the 4 side faces. So it's a total of 12 faces. There we go, 12 faces. and I said delete so that I've deleted all those faces. So there's now a vertical gap between that line and that line, and then a horizontal gap between those two as well. Next sketch. All right, so the second one here, these are just lines. I just created 4 lines. The reason I created 4 lines because I want to move the lines around to see what effect it has on my design. So I've given them positions. I've not worried about the ends, but they're just 4 independent lines, all related to the origin point. And then I've split them. So I've used those lines to split this face into 4 separate faces. So I used the sketch as a whole, then I split it, and you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different faces, or 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different faces. And then I deleted the ones I didn't want, which are the ones on the side. So you can see I've got a plane or a face, and everything else is missing. And then I also, at the same time, I deleted those little riser bits, and then I filled those in with surface lofts. So they're 4 surface lofts. And then I knitted them together so that it's a solid. Added my fillets in, actually just the major ones. And then I'm going to drag this down to the bottom. So the advantage here is, okay, I had actually originally, let me show you, I had actually originally for this configuration, I'd gone back to the sketch. And I'd said, no, I don't want that line. I want this line here as my actual top. So I've done the replace line thing. So I'm going to show it to you again. Place entity. So that's the one I originally have. I want to put that one there in its place. Okay, just make sure that it's all okay. So I've got the curves on the sides and the bottom, but I've got a flat top. So you can see it's changed that. And that you can do as a configuration thing as well. So now I just double click on this and I say, okay, what I want is I want these two to be equal. So because this is configuration specific, I just go like that. Does it? So well, let's see what happens if I make this, say about 20. Okay, and let's see if I bump this up to say 50. So I've got a completely different design. Well, not completely different, but it looks a lot different to what I had before. All driven just by sketches. So go back to this, say, well, no, let's make that 60. Oops, that's too big. 55. And let's make these 26. And that's another completely different feel to the design. I'm not doing anything new. I'm just playing around with what I've got in here. Okay, any questions? You're all happy with that? All right, well, that's all I need to show you today. I don't have anything more. I thought this would take longer, but I think I've rushed through it. But that'll give you ideas. So I'll see you guys next week. We won't do the second session unless any of you want to continue. So let me say I'll be available from 2. I'll open the Zoom meeting. If anyone wants to ask questions, they can. How does that sound?
So I think there's video. is like the most perfect tutorial. So as soon as this is up on YouTube, I think all of us are going to be using it as a big guide.
Phew, thought I was like giving you too much to deal with, but okay, great. Good, good. Okay.
It's just right.
Fantastic. Okay, great. So have you got any, I mean, you've got any, like, there's a few other things, a few other tricks we can show as well. I'll just put them together. Maybe I'll make a YouTube video to go with this one. And then I'll just add it in as the second session. One where you take two solid shapes and you subtract one from the other. Might also help. It's another method. Okay. Okay, guys, great. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Best of luck with your project.